Hey guys, Joe Simons here. Before we get into this episode, I need your help with one thing, and that is to go pick your 11 lures for 1 penny. Yes, we are doing an 11 lures, so that means you get to go pick any of our lures, 11 total, for just 1 penny over at 11lures.com. We are doing this because what we found is that every time we give lures out as samples, people keep coming back and buying more of them over and over and over again. So this is our way of putting our best foot forward to get some amazing lures that we know work for redfish and speckled trout and snook and flounder in your hands so that you will come back and buy more. It is first come, first serve over at 11lures.com. That's 11lures.com. So the number 11lures.com. See you over there and enjoy the episode.
In my soul. Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way.
And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing.
Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
How to hear from God. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back here, Salt Strong Unchurched, and I'm outdoors. You might hear some birds chirping in the background, might even hear me spook a deer too. Who knows what will happen while I'm outside in the wilderness. Hint, hint. Let's go back before I kind of give you the answer and talk about a really kind of a secret that has worked for me over and over and over again to truly hear from God. And how to kind of properly do it as well, at least just from my personal experience through trial and error. But let's go back to the biblical times. If you remember any of the stories of Jesus and even some of the disciples and even just some of the kind of well-known people / characters in the Bible, many times, if not all, 100% of the time, when they heard from God and got a message from God, they were out in the wilderness or out in the woods or out away from the busyness of life and of towns. And for so many times, I would be struggling with something, whether it be money and finances or with health or relationships with spouse, coworkers, friends, etc., or even just relationships with God. And I try to get a quick answer, right? We all want that quick fix. That it's unfortunately kind of how we're wired and how society has kind of trained us that everything's got to be fast. We got fast food, fast phones, and faster internet, faster everything. And so we all want answers quick. And I used to just I try to put my phone down real quick and say a quick prayer, and rarely did I find myself truly hearing from God, actually getting what I would call a legit message or an idea just kind of popping into my head. And I ended up marrying my wife, and every single year, somewhere around Christmas, we come to see her family in Georgia, and they have a farmhouse. It's 550 acres, a beautiful piece of property, a couple little lakes on it. If you guys are insiders, you've seen some of the little bass that I post up there, taking the nieces and nephews from Boston fishing who don't get to do that. And it's a really neat and a special place. And what I started doing early on in our marriage is I wake up early, like I did today, and I come out here and just walk around and I would pray on something and usually be one thing specifically that I'm just kind of looking for some guidance and an answer on. And I would get some ideas. And then everything changed one year when I happened to be kind of doing my little normal hike through the woods, and I saw a tree stand. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, well, one, it's going to give me a pretty cool view to see if there's any other deer or anything I'm missing. Because this is not just a wide open piece of property. It's a forest, and with little trails through it. And so I get up in this tree stand, and I was just quiet, and I just started praying there, and then I'd kind of close my eyes and almost kind of meditate, and ideas started popping into my head, where I felt like I was hearing from God. It wasn't one of those surreal things where God came down and I could see him, but all of a sudden everything that I've been dwelling on just started kind of flowing to me. I'm like running back to the house and jotting this stuff down. And now I come out with a little pad paper. We try not to use phones. There's actually no internet. There's no TV. There's no cable. There's no nothing here. And I think part of that ties into it as well, right? About just kind of being out in the wilderness. We're at this old farmhouse that was built in like 1911. And man, we go back to the days of talking to people and playing board games and having a fire and sitting around the fire chatting. And I think just being disconnected and then getting out in the wilderness or on the water, that's another place that's happened to me as well. And then that last piece is sitting down. Many times, even in the Bible, a lot of these ideas happen when, let's just say Jesus is out in the wilderness and takes a break, sits down. And literally just sits there and prays. And so now every time that I can, I come out here by myself, and usually in the mornings or even in the evenings, and I don't know, something magical happens when I sit down. It doesn't have to be in a tree stand and a deer stand or anything, but for me, that's when it's happened. Otherwise, I'd find a little area and just sit down in the ground and just kind of close my eyes and start praying. And I'm telling you, something magical happens when you do that. I have had so many ideas. It just happened to me yesterday. And here's what was interesting. Yesterday I did this and I didn't feel like I heard anything. I didn't feel like I heard back from God on a certain thing that I've just really been asking for vision for next year with Salt Strong and how we grow and what direction we go in to serve our clients. And I didn't hear anything. But when I got back, I ended up taking a little afternoon siesta. And all of a sudden, like as soon as I laid down and it was quiet in this little room, all these ideas started flowing. It was like I literally jumped up and went and sent myself a little message because my phone was right over there and just typed it all up. And I'll send it when it gets back in the Wi-Fi range. And I'm talking like literally had my answers like as clear as day. It was so wild. But what happened prior was me being out in the wilderness. And I'm telling you, something magical about being outdoors. It's where I feel closest with God. I know a lot of our anglers and our Salt Strong Club say the same thing. There's something special. And there's probably a reason that they take, a lot of veterans and people who are struggling with all kinds of post-traumatic syndromes and things out on the water. There's just something calming and soothing. And it's nature. It's God's beautiful creation, which is not, big buildings and apartments and condos and high rises and all that stuff. Those are all things that we've been blessed to be able to build. That's not really, God's creation. And I really do believe, he calls us to just go out there in the wilderness to disconnect from all the craziness from our phones. And I know obviously you're probably listening to this on a phone, and that's fine. Obviously we all spend a ton of time on there, but every once in a while, even if it's just once a year, to just get away, go camping, go get an RV, just go out there, something if you're not into sitting there in a tent or, rent an old farmhouse on Airbnb that has some property that you can just go hike around and just be quiet. It's amazing what happens when you take the steps to do that. And, I've had a couple of years where it's been just super busy and just stressful, right, with business and growing a family. And there's a couple times where I didn't want to come up here, to be honest with you. And I'd be lying if I said it's always fun, driving 7 hours with, 3 young kids and the Tahoe literally packed to the ceiling with stuff and people having to stop every 2 hours to pee. And with all the stuff going on in business, like there's a couple times I was like, oh man, can't we just stay here? It's Christmas time. I don't want to go up there and see your parents and all that. Just got a lot going on. And yet we did it. And those are the times I usually had like breakthrough moments going out in the wilderness. And I was like, all right, God, you're telling me to slow down. You're telling me to disconnect. I'm here. I'm ready to listen. And that final piece is you can't just go out there with, you're just hoping something pops in your head. You do need to be thinking about something, right? And in most cases, it's either around money / business, your finances. That's something that impacts all of us. It's top of most people's minds, even though it should never be first. For a lot of people, it is. It's just call a spade a spade. For a lot of people, money, I mean, it's one of the number one reasons that people get divorced. It causes a lot of stress. So it's usually money and finances, right? How are we going to figure this out? How are we going to get out of this rut? Or how are we, what's my career going to be next year? Hey, I'm already retired. How do we make sure we don't run out? How do we make sure we don't outlive our money? So that's always usually one of them that that seems to come up. Number two, is health, right? It's something we're all facing here with this new COVID world and all that. I mean, health is always critical. If you're unhealthy, honestly, it's not that much fun, right? It can be brutal. We've all been through that. So health is another one. And then relationships, relationships with spouses, with kids, with parents, in-laws, coworkers, etc. And then the last one, certainly not least, is God and your relationship with God and just overall religion. And I've got some friends who struggle with that, and maybe you've married someone from a different ethnicity and beliefs and culture, and sometimes that can be really, really tough. And sometimes it's just kind of the reason we started this podcast, just to answer questions that so many of us have. And I always thought, even the title of this, just 10 years ago, I would have been scratching my head saying, what are you talking about? Hearing from God. And yet here I am out here in the wilderness in a tree stand. I'm literally in a tree stand right now. If you go to the blog, saltstrong.com/unchurched, I took right before I started, I took a little selfie pic so you can kind of see what I'm seeing in my little spot up here. And after this, I actually have a little cup of coffee that I brought down, and I'm going to drink this and just be quiet and listen and take it all in. And it's so cool too, seeing nature wake up, right? And you normally get to either see or hear deer kind of walk around in the background, and tons of little birds, and occasionally a little fox. Man, it's so neat. It's so special. And I would highly encourage you, regardless of how busy your life seems, because trust me, I've been there running a business and being the father of 3 little kids and trying to be a good husband. There's so many times that I'm like, I don't have the time to go sit out in the wilderness or to go sit out on the water in a kayak or a boat. But just try it, and if you're into boating and fishing, like I know a lot of you are, do that. Go out by yourself one time. Obviously, if you kayak, it's a lot easier. Just go out in the boat one day and find a little area and just close your eyes. Just pray and listen. You'll be amazed at what can happen when you truly open your eyes and your heart to hearing from God. So you do have to have some faith. You can't just say, I'm going to pray for this and things are going to start flooding into my head. But when I have faith and I just kind of turn it over to God, that's when it seems like all the magic starts to happen. So love you guys. Hopefully this was helpful. Next week, I am going to have kind of a little documentary on goals and goal setting, kind of the what I would consider the perfect goals for 2022, regardless of who you are. And it's something that we're having the entire team do right now here at Salt Strong. Everyone seems pretty pumped by it, and possibly could be life-changing for quite a few of us. So stay tuned on that one. If you guys have any thoughts on this, love to hear from you. Joe, Joe, at saltstrong.com. That's Joe at saltstrong.com. Otherwise, I'll talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul, it was pain.